Good morning, friends. We'll continue with our topic of chemical reactions and equations. As you remember, last time I told you about the types of chemical reactions. 4 types are there. I repeat them. First is called combination reaction, second is called decomposition reaction, third is displacement, and fourth is double displacement reaction. The first one I already explained you in my previous video about combination reaction. Today we'll talk about decomposition reaction. Now, what is the meaning of decompose? Decompose means to break down, to split. Okay. Now, in these chemical reactions, a particular compound will break down into 2 or more simple substances. Okay. This reaction takes place on supplying heat, sometimes light, sometimes electricity, or sometimes simply exposure to air. Okay, so the decomposition can take place naturally on exposure to air, or some compounds require supply of heat, supply of electric energy, or supply of what? Light. Now, what is the definition, proper definition of decomposition reaction? It states that the chemical reaction in which 2 or more products are obtained from a single reactant. I repeat, the chemical reaction in which 2 or more products are obtained from a single reactant will be called as a decomposition reaction. Now, the first example we'll discuss, there is an activity which is very simple to do even at home, and that is heating sugar. Now, sugar is a compound containing carbon, hydrogen and oxygen in it. If you take sugar in a porcelain evaporating dish, keep it on a burner, okay, on a wire gauze, and observe what happens. On heating sugar, sugar initially melts, and then you can see vapors coming out, and finally a black mass is obtained. That black mass is nothing but carbon, and the evaporation has taken place, that is of water. So sugar on heating, it decomposes to give carbon and water. Second example I'll give is of calcium carbonate. See, calcium carbonate is taken in a hard glass test tube fitted with a cork and a delivery tube. The other end of delivery tube is opened in another test tube which is filled with what? Lime water. Now, if you remember, lime water has one property, that when carbon dioxide is passed through lime water, it turns milky, right? The same procedure happens here. We take calcium carbonate in a test tube, heat it. On strong heating, calcium carbonate decomposes into 2 products. One is calcium oxide, other is carbon dioxide. The carbon dioxide gas is collected in the other test tube in which we have put lime water, and when it passes through lime water, it immediately turns milky. Okay, so that's a simple example to understand how calcium carbonate undergoes decomposition to give calcium oxide and carbon dioxide. Okay, one more example I'll give. Now, in both these examples of what? Sugar or calcium carbonate, we have supplied heat, but there is one compound called hydrogen peroxide, formula H2O2. When hydrogen peroxide liquid is exposed to air, it immediately starts decomposing into water and oxygen gas. No need of supply of heat or anything. It combines, it reacts with air, and it immediately decomposes to give water and oxygen gas. So that is one example where no heat or any other energy is supplied. And the last example I will give is of electrolysis of acidated water. You have heard of electrolysis. Water can be electrolyzed simply, and we know the products obtained. Okay, it decomposes to give hydrogen gas and oxygen gas. Okay, that is also a decomposition, but we supply electric energy to carry out the decomposition. Now let's once again look at the definition and all the chemical equations involved in decomposition reaction. Okay. As our definition goes, the first thing is to define decomposition reaction. The chemical reaction in which two or more products are obtained from a single reactant is called decomposition reaction. Okay. Symbolically I can write AB decomposes to give A plus B. Okay. Now decomposition can be brought out by supplying heat. Now in this example, example 1, we have taken calcium carbonate in a test tube and it is fitted with a cork having a dilute tube opening in another test tube having lime water in it. When you heat it on a burner, calcium carbonate decomposes to give carbon dioxide gas, which passes through the delivery tube into the gas into the lime water, and lime water immediately turns milky. So the chemical equation which we will write here is, see, calcium carbonate, so CaCO3, which is in solid state. I will heat it to, it gives what, calcium oxide, which is also in solid state, and carbon dioxide gas is liberated. We put an upward pointing arrow. Now after writing the chemical equation, the first thing we have to do is to check whether it's balanced or not. Count the number of atoms on left hand side and right hand side. Calcium is 1, calcium is 1, okay. Carbon is 1, carbon is 1, oxygen 3, oxygen 3. So the equation is perfectly balanced, okay. So that is the first example for decomposition reaction. Now the second example which I told you is heating sugar. Sugar is strongly heated in an evaporating dish, and what are the products? A black colored carbon is left and water gets evaporated, okay. Now over here let's balance the chemical equation. Sugar has formula C12H22O11. Now look at carbon. How many atoms is here? 1, and over here 12. So I will add a coefficient over here 12, right? Now look at hydrogen. Hydrogen is 22. Here it is 2. So I will put coefficient over here 11, right? So hydrogen becomes 22. Now talk about oxygen. Oxygen is 11 over here, and here it is 11. So the equation is balanced, okay. This is in solid state, this is in solid state, and this is in actually vapor state, or I'll say liquid state, okay. It is in liquid state. Now hydrogen peroxide, formula is H2O2. When it is exposed to air, it decomposes to give water and oxygen gas. Now look at the balancing part. Here I have written 2H2, and here I have written simply H2. So I will make it 2. Oxygen atoms are 4, 2 and 2, 4. Okay. The fourth example for decomposition reaction I will give is that of electrolysis of acidulated water. Electrolysis of acidulated water means water containing acid in it. On electrolysis or on supplying electric energy, okay, it decomposes to give hydrogen gas and oxygen gas, okay. Balancing part, hydrogen 2, 2, oxygen 2, 1. So I'll put 2 here, and here also I'll put 2. So the equation is balanced. These are the 4 examples we wrote for decomposition reaction, and all the 4 are very, very easy. See, the third type of reactions are called displacement reactions. And before I explain the displacement reaction, I want you to understand this particular series, okay. This series is called as reactivity series of metals, okay. As we go down, the reactivity goes on decreasing. At the top, the metals are having maximum reactivity. So in a chemical reaction, the reaction with other elements is maximum of these particular elements. As we go down, okay, the reactivity goes on decreasing. I'll name this: potassium, sodium, calcium, magnesium, aluminum, zinc, iron, lead, copper, mercury, silver, gold, silver. Okay. Silver and then gold. Okay. Gold is the least reactive and potassium is the most reactive metal. Remember this. Okay. Now in displacement reaction, what is happening? The example I am taking here is zinc. Zinc powder is added to copper sulfate solution. Okay. And what we get? Copper sulfate solution is blue in color. It is aqueous. Okay. Aqueous copper sulfate solution. And zinc is in solid state. But when zinc is put in copper sulfate solution, zinc forms zinc ions. It turns into what? Zinc ions. And copper sulfate is already an ionic compound containing copper ions and sulfate ions. Getting it? Now, if you look at this series, where is zinc and where is copper? Copper is less reactive, zinc is more reactive. That's why zinc ions will replace copper ions from copper sulfate. And what we get is zinc sulfate and copper metal. I repeat, zinc metal on mixing with copper sulfate solution forms zinc ions. Okay, forms zinc ions. Now copper sulfate is made up of two ions, copper ions, positive ions, and sulfate ions. Now zinc, since it is more reactive than copper, it will replace or displace copper from copper sulfate and form zinc sulfate. And the copper ions which have been displaced form copper metal. This is how we understand what displacement reaction. Okay. Now similar examples can be given with iron. If you put an iron nail in a solution of copper sulfate, what happens? Okay. Now once again, where is iron and where is copper? Copper is less reactive, iron is more reactive. The ferric ions which are formed, they will remove copper from copper sulfate solution, and the new compound ferrous sulfate will be formed along with copper ions, copper metal. This color of the solution is green. So color of solution changes from blue to green. Okay. This is also an example of displacement reaction. One more example which is there in your textbook: lead and copper sulfate. Okay. Now lead is more reactive than copper, so definitely lead will remove copper from copper sulfate, and what we obtain is lead sulfate along with copper metal. Okay. So these are three examples for displacement reaction, and let us now define what is displacement reaction. You understood this. The ions of more reactive element remove the ions of less reactive element from a compound to form a new compound. Okay. See, the reaction in which the place of ions of a less reactive element in a compound is taken by another more reactive element by formation of its own ions is called displacement reaction. Okay. So that is displacement, and I told you now this series we have to learn in 10th. Okay. And the simplest idea to remember this I will tell you later on. Okay. Friends, let us now understand the concept of double displacement reaction. Now if you have understood the displacement reaction, this reaction is similar to it. Similar in what sense? In displacement reaction, some ions were displaced by more reactive ions. Okay. Over here, a similar thing happens, but the ions are getting exchanged between two compounds, and the reason is very much similar. It is because of the less reactivity and more reactivity. Okay. Now, how we define it? The definition is very simple. The reaction in which ions in the reactants are exchanged to form a precipitate are called double displacement reactions. Okay. Now, the speciality you have to remember about double displacement reaction is that compulsory there will be a formation of a precipitate. Okay. A precipitate is an insoluble substance, something which is not soluble in a solution or in water. Okay. Now first we talk about two aqueous solutions. One is sodium chloride and one is silver nitrate, NaCl and AgNO3. Over here, sodium, which is highly reactive, removes silver, which is less reactive, and silver takes the place of sodium. Okay. And what compound we get is sodium nitrate and silver chloride. Always the one which is less reactive forms the precipitate. This is not given in text, but understand, sometimes you may have a confusion. Which one is a precipitate? Always remember, the metal which is less reactive will form the precipitate. Second example is the one which is asked in activity. Potassium chromate is reacted with barium sulfate solution. Both are in aqueous state. Now, color of potassium chromate is yellow, barium sulfate is white in color. Now, here potassium, which is highly reactive, will remove barium. Okay, and barium will take place of potassium, and so the compound formed will be barium chromate, which is nothing but the precipitate. As I told you, compared to potassium and barium, barium is less reactive, so this compound will be the precipitate and its color is yellow. And the second aqueous compound, the compound in aqueous state will be potassium sulfate. So potassium chromate reacts with barium sulfate, undergoes double displacement reaction to give barium chromate and potassium sulfate. Okay. Only these two examples you have to remember in your syllabus for double displacement reactions. I request you to at least learn two examples of each. Double displacement, then displacement reactions, combination and decomposition. Whenever we talk about chemical equations, each and every chemical equation should be learned from the text. Okay, nothing is omitted. But if they ask you for short notes along with the definition and description, you should be able to write the chemical equations. Okay. See, so we have completed the topics of types of chemical reactions. Now we will talk about endothermic and exothermic processes and reactions. Now, make one thing clear. See, when I say endothermic and exothermic processes, it is about a physical process. Getting it? And when I say reaction, I am talking about chemical reaction. Please don't get confused between processes and the word reaction. So, first we have to understand what are endothermic and exothermic processes. Okay. See, first, endothermic process, the process in which, physical process in which heat is absorbed. Okay. And the best example I can give here is melting of ice. When ice melts, it absorbs heat and converts into water. So melting of ice can be termed as an endothermic process. Similarly, when you dissolve potassium nitrate in water, KNO3 in water, okay, what happens is KNO3 absorbs heat from the water for dissolving, and that's why the temperature of potassium nitrate solution decreases. It becomes cold. It becomes what? Cold. So melting of ice and dissolution of potassium nitrate in water are two good examples of endothermic process, the process in which, physical process in which heat is absorbed. Now what is exothermic process? Okay, in exothermic process, the physical process involves liberation of heat, or heat is given out. Example I'll take of water turning into ice. Okay, now whenever we want to convert water into ice, we have to remove all the heat from it, and then only it can turn into ice. Similarly, dissolution of NaOH in water. When we dissolve NaOH in water, heat is liberated, and that's why the mixture turns hot. Again, it's an exothermic process. Okay. Here one more example I want to put down, and that is dilution of concentrated sulfuric acid. You know formula for sulfuric acid, H2SO4. Okay, what happens if you pour water in concentrated sulfuric acid? Okay, I repeat, if you are pouring water in concentrated sulfuric acid, what will happen? See, whenever concentrated sulfuric acid comes in contact with water, a highly exothermic reaction takes place. Heat is given out. What? Heat is given out, and this heat leads to evaporation of water, and there is splurting. That's what? Splurting of water. Water may splur out, and this can lead to accidents. Okay, but to prevent such accidents, the opposite thing is done. We don't add sulfuric acid, water to sulfuric acid, but we'll add sulfuric acid to water. So the proper method of dilution of concentrated sulfuric acid is, we take water and slowly add sulfuric acid to it and keep on stirring. Okay, so water heat is generated, is passed on to the water, and there is no splurting out, and so the accidents can be prevented in this process. So the third example you can remember, when water comes in contact with concentrated sulfuric acid, it leads to a exothermic process. What? Exothermic. Don't call it reaction, it is exothermic process. Okay, so that is about endothermic and exothermic processes. Let us see all this on the board. So endothermic and exothermic processes and reactions. First we are talking about endothermic processes. Okay, in endothermic processes, what we mentioned, it's a physical process involving absorption of heat. Best examples, melting of ice, and second, dissolution of potassium nitrate in water. Okay, these two examples you can remember. Now for exothermic process, what happens? It's a physical process involving liberation of heat. Example 1 is formation of ice from water. Second example, dissolution of NaOH in water. Okay. Third example is dilution of concentrated sulfuric acid. As I told you, when water is added to concentrated sulfuric acid, heat is liberated, water gets evaporated quickly, and it can cause spurting of acid, which can lead to accidents. Instead, the proper method is to add concentrated acid slowly to the water with constant stirring. Okay, so in Give Reasons, this question is asked, why concentrated acid is added to water and not water to concentrated acid. Okay, now see, there are two activities we have to understand, very simple activities. See, there is one flask or a beaker containing water. We note down the temperature of the water. Okay, its room temperature, whatever is there, 30 degrees or 35 degrees water is that we note down. Now in that amount of water taken is 10 ml. In the 10 ml of water, I add 5 gram of potassium nitrate and shake it. Add 5 grams of what? Potassium nitrate and stir it, shake it, and then I put the thermometer and note down the temperature. The same procedure is repeated with another flask with addition of 5 grams of NaOH. I add 5 grams of NaOH and again stir it, shake it, and note down the temperature of the mixture. What are the observations? In the first case, in observation A, when water is added to potassium nitrate, okay, we get an aqueous solution of potassium nitrate and the temperature of the mixture will decrease. Why? Because it's an endothermic reaction, endothermic process. But in the second case, what is happening? We are adding sodium hydroxide to water, and when you check the temperature would have increased. Temperature has increased. That indicates it's a exothermic process. So these two activities you have to understand. Okay, one is a endothermic, water plus potassium nitrate, and one is a exothermic process, water and sodium hydroxide. Let's now talk about endothermic and exothermic reactions. Now when I mention reactions, it is about chemical reactions, not physical processes but chemical reactions, and the definitions are exactly similar to what we learned in endothermic and exothermic processes. See, endothermic reaction, the chemical reactions involving absorption of heat energy is called as endothermic reaction. That means to carry out this reaction, heat is absorbed, okay, then only the reaction takes place. And this example I already discussed earlier, okay, in decomposition reaction. When calcium carbonate is heated strongly, it decomposes to give calcium oxide and carbon dioxide. Here heat is absorbed by calcium carbonate and it breaks into calcium oxide and carbon dioxide. It is a balance equation, and this is a good example of endothermic reaction. Now, what is exothermic reaction? See, the definition is exactly opposite. The chemical reactions involving liberation of heat energy is called exothermic reactions. Okay, and again this example was discussed. When calcium oxide is mixed with water or water is added to calcium oxide, a large amount of heat is liberated. Okay, we get from quicklime we get slaked lime, COH twice, plus liberation of heat. Okay, and this one example is a good example of what? An exothermic reaction. One more example I'll give. See, you have seen when we light a matchstick. When we light a matchstick, what happens? Okay, when we ignite the matchstick, it catches fire and gives out heat. That reaction is also an exothermic chemical reaction. Okay, so that is all about endothermic and exothermic chemical reactions.